In Episode 19, Establish Clear Privacy Requirements and Data Handling Rules, we shift the lens from systems and controls to the people whose lives are reflected in the data we manage. Privacy is often described in terms of laws and checklists, but at its core, it is about ensuring that information about individuals is processed lawfully, in limited ways, and with transparency they can reasonably understand. The intent in this conversation is to turn those abstract principles into specific requirements that engineers, product teams, and legal partners can actually use. When privacy rules are clear, practical, and well aligned with your architecture, they stop being a source of late-stage friction and become part of how you design. That clarity also positions you well for scenarios where exams test your ability to balance compliance, security, and user trust. A strong privacy posture begins by documenting lawful bases, purposes, and explicit limitation statements for processing personal data. Lawful bases might include consent, contract performance, legal obligations, vital interests, public interest tasks, or legitimate interests, depending on the jurisdiction. But the key is that each processing activity has a clearly identified anchor. Purposes must be described in language that real users and internal teams can understand, not buried in generic phrases like service improvement that could mean almost anything. Limitation statements then draw the boundary by saying what the data will not be used for, closing off the temptation to reuse it for unrelated experiments later. When these elements are written down and linked to actual systems and flows, privacy moves from aspiration to an operational constraint everyone can see. Collection practices are the next logical focus, because what you never collect can never be breached, misused, or mishandled. Minimization means asking for each field whether it is truly essential for the stated purpose or merely nice to have in case someone wants it later. High-risk attributes, such as sensitive personal characteristics or precise location histories, demand especially strong justification and often bring significant regulatory obligations along with them. In many cases, the most responsible choice is to avoid collecting such attributes at all unless there is a compelling, documented reason tied to a well-defined purpose. When collection forms, API designs, and logging defaults reflect this discipline, the organization's risk surface shrinks without sacrificing core functionality. Retention and disposal requirements then shape how long data remains identifiable and accessible, which is just as important as deciding what to collect. Retention periods should be tied to legal obligations, contractual commitments, and genuine business needs, not set to forever because it is convenient. Deletion triggers might include account closure, elapsed time since last activity, or completion of regulatory record-keeping windows, and they must be baked into operational processes rather than left to manual cleanups. Documented disposal procedures describe how data is removed or anonymized in primary stores, backups, logs, and derived datasets in ways that are auditable. This structure ensures that privacy requirements endure beyond the design stage and into the quiet, everyday handling of information over time. Supporting data subject rights requires workflows that are discoverable, timely, and verifiable, not just promises buried in a policy. Rights requests might include access, correction, deletion, restriction, objection, or portability, depending on applicable laws, and each one needs a clear path from intake to fulfillment. Systems must be able to locate relevant data accurately, apply changes consistently across replicas, and record evidence of completion. Timelines for responses must align with regulatory expectations, which means automation and role clarity are essential.
When these workflows are designed with the same care as user-facing features, individuals' rights become operational reality rather than a theoretical compliance statement. Privacy impact assessments play a special role whenever you introduce risky features or novel data uses because they force a structured conversation about consequences.
These assessments identify what kinds of personal data are involved, how they flow through systems, and what potential harms could arise from misuse or failure. They then examine which controls, safeguards, and design choices mitigate those harms and where residual risks remain. When conducted early, impact assessments can reshape features, prompt stronger consent mechanisms, or steer teams toward less intrusive approaches. They become a record that shows both regulators and internal stakeholders that privacy was considered thoughtfully, not patched in at the last minute. Technical measures like de-identification, pseudonymization, and aggregation offer powerful ways to reduce risk when used thoughtfully and documented carefully. De-identification aims to remove direct and indirect identifiers to the point where individuals are no longer reasonably identifiable, although this bar is high and context-dependent. Pseudonymization replaces identifiers with tokens or keys, reducing exposure while still allowing certain linkages under controlled conditions, with key material protected separately. Aggregation combines data into summaries that preserve analytical value while lowering the risk of singling out individuals. Clear requirements should define when these techniques are required, what standards they must meet, and how they interact with other controls and business uses. Cross-border data transfers add another layer of complexity, demanding approved mechanisms and continual oversight to maintain compliance and trust. Requirements might state which regions are permitted to receive certain data, which transfer tools or legal mechanisms must be in place, and how risks associated with foreign access laws are assessed. Oversight includes periodic reviews of transfer partners, updates to contractual clauses when laws change, and monitoring of where data actually resides and travels. These rules must be grounded in both legal guidance and the technical reality of cloud architectures, content delivery networks, and distributed analytics platforms. When cross-border governance is explicit and enforced, organizations are less likely to be blindsided by regulatory scrutiny or geopolitical shifts. Third-party sharing deserves explicit control because it can easily create shadow processing ecosystems if left unmanaged. Contracts should spell out allowable uses, security expectations, breach notification duties, sub-processor conditions, and audit or attestation requirements. Assessments of third parties need to consider their history, controls, and track record with incidents, not just their marketing claims. Monitoring expectations ensure that once a vendor is onboarded, oversight continues through periodic reviews, renewal checks, and evaluation of any control changes. These requirements together make it clear that sharing data with another organization is not a one-time decision, but an ongoing responsibility. Consent experiences, when consent is the chosen lawful basis, require their own set of requirements around clarity, granularity, withdrawal, and proof. Clarity means that users understand what they are agreeing to in concrete terms, not through dense legal text. Granularity ensures that people can accept one processing purpose while declining another, rather than being forced into all-or-nothing choices that are unlikely to stand up to serious scrutiny. Withdrawal must be easy to perform and honored promptly without punishing users with degraded core service where that is not justified. Proof involves keeping records of what was presented and when consent was given or withdrawn so that claims can be substantiated later. To keep privacy integrated rather than isolated, privacy by design checkpoints should appear in planning, design reviews, and testing activities.
Planning sessions can include privacy questions alongside security and performance, ensuring that data uses, purposes, and rights are considered before backlogs are frozen. Design reviews can ask how features handle minimization, retention, user transparency, and rights fulfillment, not just how they meet functional goals. Testing activities can include scenarios where users exercise their rights, where consent is withdrawn, or where data must be deleted or anonymized across services. These checkpoints embed privacy into the fabric of delivery rather than treating it as an optional add-on. When something goes wrong, breach notification requirements dictate how quickly and clearly you must respond, so they need to be defined in advance. Criteria determine which incidents qualify as reportable breaches, based on factors such as the nature of the data, the scale of exposure, and the likelihood of harm. Timelines reflect legal mandates and contractual promises, which can be demanding and require well-rehearsed coordination among legal, communications, and technical teams. Owners are identified for key tasks, such as investigation, decision-making, drafting messages, and coordinating with regulators or customers. Predefined message templates provide starting points that can be tailored to the specifics of an incident without losing time or omitting required information. A brief mini-review helps consolidate these patterns into a mental map you can carry into exams and real projects. Purpose limitation and lawful bases ensure that processing has legitimate, bounded reasons, while minimization and retention rules keep both scope and lifetime in check. Rights workflows and privacy impact assessments demonstrate respect for individuals and structured thinking about novel uses. Cross-border governance, third-party controls, and consent experiences keep privacy expectations consistent across complex ecosystems. Breach notification rules then close the loop by defining how you respond when protections fail. Together, these elements form a privacy requirement set that is both principled and operational. The conclusion for Episode 19 is to turn the concepts into a concrete step. Choose one product flow that matters in your environment and draft its privacy requirements explicitly. That flow might involve account registration, analytics for a key feature, or data sharing with a strategic partner. The next action is to write down the lawful basis, purposes, minimization rules, retention expectations, rights fulfillment details, and any cross-border or third-party considerations for that flow. As you repeat this process across more flows, privacy moves from a generic compliance word to a set of precise, testable requirements that protect people while still enabling the systems you are building. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.